Good morning, everybody. Shh. It is 4:35 a.m. And you're going, what the hell are you doing up? Oh, because I have the worst sleeping pattern in the world. I went to bed about 8 o'clock and fell asleep. Actually, I had a very good sleep, but got up about 2:30, so I've been up for a little while. But I wanted to drop in here for a minute regarding the abortion issue in Texas. The law that just passed that is restricting women from having an abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy when you don't even know that you're pregnant. And they knew that. They yell and scream about the Taliban because, things with Afghanistan, we just pulled out. And you can read your history books. And, it's going to, the Taliban's going to restrict women and, rape them and all of that. Well, they're doing it here in Texas. So what's the difference? It's horrible. And I wanted to just interject a story, a little bit of my own life story. Now, before I go on with this, I want to say it is a woman's body to do with what she feels is right. And if she knows that she does not or cannot care for that pregnancy, you, a doctor, a preacher, a politician, nobody has the right to say, well, what about the daddy? Well, he should have got a vasectomy. Okay. It is her right to choose. So, my mother gets pregnant with me in late 1952. And apparently she had been consorting, fucking around with a couple of guys, one of which was my father, George. But in the 50s, there was no way of telling who a biological father was. When my mother had told her family she was pregnant, she wanted to give me up for adoption. And sorry, dry mouth. And my grandparents apparently just had a tizzy fit about that. And my father stepped up to the plate and married her, not knowing for sure if I was his child or not. And I'm grateful that I know for sure because of DNA testing. Okay. So, fast forward all these years is that as I was growing up, there was an animosity, and I could never, I adored my mother. At that point in time, as being a little kid, I thought my mother walked on water. She was, because, it's kind of what we were taught in Catholic school is the Virgin Mary and motherly love and everything else. It doesn't work that way. There are just some women who are not meant to be mothers at all. Now, my mother had mental health issues, and nobody wanted to recognize it at the time. She was addicted to prescription drugs, which didn't help. And the bottom line is, for my entire life, my mother did not want me around. She was forced to get married. She wanted to give me up for adoption, and they wouldn't let her. So she gets married, and let me tell you, there were things that she did to me that, not the least of which she had locked me in a closet one time, and apparently I was in there for so long, I had found they had mothballs. They used mothballs back in the day, and I had found these 3 years old. I was 3 years old. I found these mothballs. My dad comes home. They can't, he can't find me. I'm locked in a closet and eating mothballs. And I had to go get my stomach pumped. And she could have cared less. That's a mental health issue, and I realize it. When I was like a few weeks before I turned 18. Now, I had spent nearly my entire childhood being raised by other family members, aunts, uncles, and my grandparents. And I am eternally grateful for my family members for stepping up to the plate to take in a child. And two of my aunts, my mother's sisters, are just a few years older than I am. So they're in their 20s raising a teenager. Like, that's hard. Raising a teenager is hard shit. But, when you're only in your 20s, barely out of being a teenager yourself, and now you're doing it, that was some tough work. And I'm eternally grateful to them. So when I graduate high school, my mother shows back up in my life again. And, she tells me, she goes, I never wanted to keep you. I wanted to give you up for adoption. And again, I still had this vision of my mother being like, she walked on water and she's wonderful and you're my mother and I love you. You gave birth to me. And I've learned over the years that there are just some women who are not meant to be mothers. If a woman needs to have an abortion for whatever reason, it ain't none of our business. Because if you think that that child is going to be born, and as soon as she goes through the stress of being pregnant in an unwanted pregnancy, going through labor and delivery, and you're handed this little baby that it's a burden to them. A burden. Oh, well, we'll give it up for adoption. Okay? You don't know who's going to get it. A lot of adoptions turn out great. But let me tell you, those adopted children have questions. Why did you give me away? Now, obviously, many of them are logical and I can take care of you, kind of a thing. But you still grapple with that as an unwanted child for years. My mother had me and my brother Jeff. We were so abused when we were kids, when we lived with her and my stepdad. We were so abused that my brother started drinking at age 9. And he died at 43. My mother blamed everybody but herself. Where were you, Mom? Your 9-year-old child is drinking liquor because that was how he coped. That is how he coped with the abuse we were going through. So this Texas law that just passed yesterday, restricting abortions. A lot of these kids are going to wind up in foster care. They're going to be sexually abused. There's going to be drug use. They're going to go into a cycle of getting pregnant at a young age, prostitution. It's there. The statistics are there. You're not doing those kids any favors by forcing that mother to carry that child. And I'm living proof of that. I was lucky. I had the wherewithal. I don't know where I got it from. I joined the military and I went that route, but life was tough for me. And I'm 68. I just turned 68. And I still grapple with the fact that I had a mother who didn't love me. I find that inconceivable. I struggled as a mother with my children because I was a single mom. It wasn't that I love my children. I still do. I still do love them, of course. And, did everything I could to keep our family together. But we struggled. And I was the hatred that I got because I was a single mother raising my children. The stigma of that. And I'm so blessed that my 3 surviving children have good jobs now. They're raising their children in a stable environment, that cycle was broken. And I wish I could have done more for my kids, but my kids always knew I wanted them. We struggled, but I wanted them, and that was my choice. But my mother did. She had me and my brother, and eventually went on. She did have an abortion after us. I would have been about 7, 8 years old when she had one. And, I don't fault her for that because she was able to get what she finally wanted. And that was rid of her kids in one way or another. So, fuck you, Texas. And I am going to keep fighting for a woman's choice to choose. So, fuck you, Texas.